Welcome to Heroes Rising, hosted by Sifu Rafael, a master instructor, public speaker, and the founder of Speaking Prowess. Known for his expertise in empowering individuals through the art of communication and leadership. Alongside him is co-host Jose Escobar, an acclaimed personal development speaker, 18-time published author, and founder of 2 thriving businesses, including the Connected Leaders Academy. Together, they bring you dynamic conversations with world-class entrepreneurs, industry icons, and visionaries. Heroes Rising is your go-to source for wisdom, motivation, and unstoppable growth. Join us and discover the hero within you.
Jose, how are you, my friend?
Hey. Good afternoon. How are we doing?
Exceptional. I see that you're still by the beach. You're having an incredible time with your family. So happy that you jumped on with us.
Yes, I wouldn't miss this. Absolutely love being on this show with you and with all the amazing guests that you bring. Yes, we're still here. We leave tomorrow, but winners find a way to win, and here we are.
Yeah, we are definitely winning. And, we have 2 amazing individuals with us. And today's topic is going to be driving inclusions and defeating delay. Sometimes we need to delete it too. But so let's go ahead and bring Chris and Mathias to our world of entrepreneurship and literally heroes rising. Gentlemen, good afternoon. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Yes.
Happy Friday and good morning. I'm in the West Coast.
Yes, you are.
Oh, good morning. Good morning.
Yes, and when we consider driving inclusions, what does that mean to either one of you gentlemen?
That's a good one. I'll take a crack at it first, Chris. I think when I think about inclusion, it's really who's missing on the table and how do we bring them to join in. That concept of pulling a seat to the table is really old mindset. It's really how do we sow the seed, create the seed, make people be part of the table with us, and if we need to, extend the table.
I like that.
I really like Mathias is there. To me, driving inclusion is really about one thing, and it's just really holding space, accepting, allowing. But like Mathias said too, adding those individuals to the table.
Yeah. I like the extending the table part because I recall being at family gatherings, and sometimes we had to put 2 or 3 tables together to make sure everybody fit in. And here's the thing: the kids didn't want to be at the kid table; they always wanted to be at the grown-up table. And in certain families, the kids were included. In other families, they were put somewhere else. And sometimes I would go sit with the kids because I am the biggest kid in the room, right? I love to have fun. And for them not to feel like they belonged, I didn't want them to feel that way.
I love that. And that's honestly the fun table if you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
When I was growing up, we used to do a lot of the dominos playing, and that's where it was so fun. You can bet your 25 cents and maybe hopefully get lucky and cash out $2 to $3 at the end of it. But I love the idea, you always have to bring people together, and the best way is a table. I realized too, growing up, I've always had those tables that extend really by that means of how do we bring people in and create community.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jose,
I'd like to chime in real quick.
Yeah, you have a lot of tables going on over there.
Yeah, so in terms of the idea of inclusion and all that, my whole philosophy and mentality when it comes to involving people in things, it's really the door is always open, right? The door is wide open. It really is a matter of how bad does somebody want it, right? Because and when I say it, I'm talking about progress. I'm talking about positive change. I'm talking about the next level, personally, professionally, whatever that might mean to that individual, right? There's again the whole philosophy that Matthias mentioned. You said that bring a chair, right? If there's no seat at the table, then pull up a chair and make it work, right? Or whatever you got to do to get into the room. So one of my things that I always say is I never want to want something for somebody more than they want it for themselves. So you got to want it bad. You got to have that intentionality of saying, hey, I want to be in that room. I want to be a part of this thing. I want to be around these people or be included. And that's an inside job, right? So I believe the door is always open, and I will leave doors open for people for anything. It's just a matter of how bad do they want it and do they see the value. That's really what it comes out to.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, one of the things that Jose and I are currently doing is we have it's called New York City Experience, where we have people gathering and meeting and being part of something that they didn't even know they needed. And when you talked about Matthias community, that's where everything really does stand um, to be even better for people when they come and they belong, or they feel like they can actually not only get a seat at the table, but even get a forkful in, if you can. They get a bite into the meal. Is not just being an outsider. And I think that where you talked about the community and the inclusion, and it has to be so important to all of us. When we go somewhere, we want to feel like we belong, even in a car ride, right? You don't want to just be sitting in a car ride and everybody else is talking and you're just there and they avoid you or don't even talk to you. I think that inclusion is so important to every aspect of our daily lives.
Mm. Yes, that sense of, community, connection. We're very social creatures, so when we're looking at who's around us, I look at what are the common denominators? How can we find those? And asking questions, I think curiosity is a good value to have and allow for folks to be like, okay, who is this individual here in the car ride, in the community? I love the New York experience aspect of it, right? How do we experience this together? And that's a common denominator. And that's inclusive. And I'll make sure before we keep going, it's Matias. The H is silent, so I want to make sure.
Gotcha. So you're Spanish, right? Just like me?
Originally from Montevideo, Uruguay. Been
Right.
living in the United States for 24 years now, getting old, and lived in Wisconsin for 22 years, and now San Francisco, California.
Very nice, very nice. And Jose is also Spanish, and I am Colombian.
Ah,
And for me, I came when I was 8 years old. And can I tell you, I didn't feel included because
mhm.
no one spoke Spanish where I came to. The teachers didn't speak Spanish, the students didn't speak Spanish, and I felt left out. So I know what it's like when you finally are allowed to be part of the conversation, right? Because I had to force my way, if you will. I had to grab a knife and a fork to get at that table. So that was important for me. And I've learned how to really navigate those waters, if you will.
Well, I can resonate with that so much with that, Sifu. When you speak one language, for my case, Spanish, and you're emerged into a different world with a different language, it's hard to communicate. And that's where the piece for me with the inclusion is, there were many years in my youth where it's like, I don't quite understand, or I'm catching on, or maybe people speak too fast. And once I mastered English, you're like, oh, wow, I'm speaking too fast in English for folks, because in Espanol, you talk really fast naturally. And it's really interesting. So for me, when it comes to inclusion, it's always thinking about that, the young kid inside of me that's always like, I felt left out, and how do I not replicate that for somebody, perpetrate that same cycle for someone else, and make sure that they're also welcome in to the space and feel like they can share. They feel like don't have to force themselves in, but be authentically themselves. And language is a big one, especially when you're trying to master a new one. But that's the fun part about it too, being able to conversate with folks and learn. Oh, these are new words, these are new expressions, sayings. And there's a lot of that in every culture, and that's the fun part about the inclusion. You can learn.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I totally and I forgot to include you both in it is to put in the chat, put your links in so I can share them with our audience. See, even I almost didn't let you guys come to the table, so I apologize for that. So when you get a chance, go into where it says private chat, and then put in your links, and then I'll put them across the way as well. When we consider navigating the waters of being included, like you and I just spoke about, Jose has created such an incredible and beautiful community. I'm going to give everybody a chance to do that while I share one of the things that he is doing for all of us. Take a look.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
All right. So, Jose, we just talked about Connected Leaders Academy. Why was it so important for you to include, but you curate this in such a beautiful way that you include real, I'm going to say, winners, champions into this community? Why is that so important for you?
Well, as you know, what they say, birds of a feather flock together. So if you're looking to rise and grow and go to new levels, that usually requires us to get into new rooms, new environments, to be put into a position where there's people that are maybe one step ahead of us or 30 steps ahead of us, right? So my goal is to find the best of the best of all entrepreneurs from all over the world that are doing things, that are creating impact, that are making things happen, and just creating that environment, right? So for me, it's so important to cultivate an environment of success, an environment of growth, an environment of discomfort, right? Because we grow when we are outside of our comfort zone. And that's where I love to live. I love to live in the discomfort zone, as Robin Sharma talks about in his book, The 5 a.m. Club. So the discomfort zone is so important, and that's what I want to create. I want to create this environment of growth, and that's what it's about. That's what I had a vision of, and that's what's happening, and we're growing every day because of those reasons.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for that. And Don
Callahan, what's up, man?
happy Friday, brother. All right. So, Matthias, when you talked earlier about when you go back and you started speaking, when you learned English, then you started speaking fast, and you realized that people who are trying to learn the language go like, wait, calm down, slow down. And you go back to being that kid to understand the difference of how we have to evolve. Would you mind talking about that a little bit?
Definitely Sifu. And I think you mentioned it earlier, and still the kid that never grew up, still inside of there. So it's always a growing curve, if how I would put it. Think about, when you're learning a new language, there's a lot of different structures, dialects, the sayings, right? Was always the fun part for me because one thing you try to translate something in Spanish, it didn't quite say it came out the same way in English. One of my favorite examples is the word chin. In Spanish is pera, and I keep saying pera, but people would think I was saying pear, like the fruit, no, my chin. So it's like the sort of funny moments that you realize not everything is the same, and you just gotta slow down, learn, and really listen. I think, and a lot of my work, what I do is really that piece. How do we slow down and listen? And for me, it was learning the language that taught me that. And once you start mastering it, it's like running, you just want to move faster and faster, see how can I move, adapt, or, evolve with it. And I saw a lot of that with me and my siblings. I'm the oldest of three. So, after school, we would teach each other with flashcards and go really fast, like, what does this word mean? And then go fast. And I think that's what really cut out for us because we're all about the same age. My brother's a year younger than me. My sister is 3 years younger than me. She's the youngest one. And we would just go really fast. Like, what does this word mean? Chin. Or, the colors, the numbers. And um, I think that reflecting back, that's really where I caught up with that speed. And then in school, you're like, I can't speak this fast. They're not understanding me. It sounds like I'm mumbling. So I thought, okay, I need to slow down, pace myself, and really listen to the folks that are around me, what they're saying too, so they can hear me and understand me. Uh, Now, when it comes to inclusion and community work, really, it's a lot of that, right? There's folks that might speak faster than you, might speak slower, and you don't want to rush them or you don't want to tell them to slow down and really asking them, like, okay, let me clarify, right? The curiosity piece comes up a lot. Is this what I heard? Or what did you mean by this saying? Um, And then once you start talking to a lot of different people, you both, Jose, Sifu, probably you even as Chris, as a coach, you probably see this, not everybody communicates the same way, but the beauty about it is that if you're truly trying to understand the person in front of you, you learn to listen and the communication just happens from there slowly. And I really appreciate that part in the community work because I think a lot of people have been moving really fast, moving go, 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 and at the time to slow down or even listen to. And that's where we find ourselves now. Current day, 2025, we're moving really fast, but we're not listening to each other. We're just speaking, going, going, going. We need to take it a step back.
We do. And I wanted to say a quick hello to Mandy. Happy Friday, Mandy. Thank you for joining us as well. When we consider, here's somebody else. We love it. We have Mateo. How are you, buddy? Happy Friday. Latino vibes. That's it.
Yes.
When we think about including people, sometimes we have to immerse ourselves into that culture or that speed of speak, right? So, for example, sometimes on a given day, I will be talking to a group of 5-year-olds and then 8-year-olds and then 14, 15-year-olds. And then sometimes I'm talking to somebody in their 60s or 70s or 80s. So I have to really adapt really quick. So I am part of that conversation because if I'm going to talk to somebody in their 60s like I do to a 5-year-old, it's going to be very different. So it's about me immersing myself into the space that I'm going into, to listen to them like you talked about, to understand the conversation so that I am not overpowering, but I'm more of a participant in their conversation. Chris, what are your thoughts on everything you've been hearing when it comes to language and the different spaces and so forth?
Well, the language is important. We need to understand when we're communicating, and this was a big thing for me because I had the opposite experience to you and Matthias. Um, I was a transplant from North America to Costa Rica, and they used to have fun with me all the time. Like the Spanish teacher would only speak Spanish to me, and she'd be like, "Yeah, go chew gum or whatever." It's fine. You can chew gum or spit it out. They'd get me in trouble all sorts of ways, helping me out. Um, but in terms of language, we do need to understand that certain words mean different things to different people.
Mhm.
So I think when we're talking inclusion, especially, um, sometimes we tend to use cultural labels, um, which we don't see any issue with, but other people do. And it's not that we intend to offend anyone. It's that we don't understand that particular label in that culture is not seen in a good light.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. I would love to take it over and go into, unless you guys have more topics on this, what are your thoughts on defeating delay, which for you, we understand is procrastination, and you're a procrastination coach. Um, uh, what does that mean, if you can explain that a little better?
Sure. I mean, procrastination is really at its core just you're not doing something that you either know that you should be doing or you feel that you should be doing. Um, and we all go through this.
Mhm.
I still go through it sometimes. The only difference is I catch myself doing it. Right. Um, so oftentimes what we're doing is we're avoiding discomfort. I mean, as was saying before, we need to kind of get comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's where the real growth happens.
Mhm.
And that's a big reason for delay. Actually, is just avoiding being uncomfortable.
Right. So many people are they avoid things because of that, right? Because they don't want, they don't want to be uncomfortable doing it, or they haven't done it and they're afraid to do it, right? How many people here have ever procrastinated because of the unknown? Go ahead, put your hands up. Right? Uh, and what happens when you say, you know what, I'm just going to do it anyway? And then you go, oh my God, what was I waiting for? I should have done it to begin with, right? Let's talk about some of those instances, if you can.
Yeah, certainly. And again, self compassion is key in procrastination as well, just because we need to understand that whatever we're doing instead of the thing we should be doing,
Mm,
it's filling some need for us at that moment too. I mean, maybe you felt like you needed to be comfortable rather than, or you need fear of the unknown, right? You need certainty. Well, I'll just scroll social media for 2 hours because I'm certain of what I'm going to be seeing there, right?
mm,
um, giving you those dopamine hits. Um, One of the things that we need to understand is that the things that we're avoiding, that's where your greatest growth really lies.
right.
Love what you said, Chris. If I may add, there's three levels to it. It's the comfort zone, the discomfort zone, and then ultimately the growth zone. Or sometimes you see it flip, the growth zone's in the middle, and then the discomfort zone is at the end. I think the two pieces at the end go interchangeably, and I like to tell people, engage with the discomfort, and that could be a number of ways. Seafood, you mentioned experiences, you want to do something. Maybe public speaking for a lot of folks, that's a hard one. You lean into your discomfort zone heavily when you're doing that sort of aspect, and but ultimately, once you're done, you feel great. You're in their growth zone because you're like, I did it, and I can do it again. And when it comes to community work too, I think a lot about folks that oftentimes don't feel included, but it's that invitation, it's that come join us, experience it with us. Let's go on a boat ride. Let's go play bowling. Let's have this experience that you might not have had, that pushes them out of that comfort zone into that growth zone. and do it in a way that folks don't feel like they're in that panic zone, but can reach that growth, like can reach that new experience and feel like, wow, I just learned something new or experienced this that I didn't do before, and it's really fun. And delaying the procrastination so that way folks can be able to say, I've been thinking about this, I've been circling around it. What do they call it? The analysis paralysis
Mhm.
aspect,
Right.
right? That's delaying, I really want to do this, but I don't know how I feel it. And you're just circling. And it's like, sometimes you need someone or a friend or an individual to be like, hey, just do it. Or yourself too, you got to be your motivator, uh, and put yourself out there and know that the outcome will be very rewarding oftentimes. And if it's not, it's a learning experience, right? You got to look at it as a learning experience, because now hey, I actually am really bad at bowling, and it's okay. I just threw all my balls into the gutter, but you wouldn't have known that if you were sitting at home scrolling on your phone.
Amen
I'm
to
really
that.
bad at bowling.
I would love to chime in on this. Love everything that's being said about this lovely topic of defeating delay, right? Because I like to call it mental constipation, right? To
Mm,
where we overthink something and we overanalyze and we flip it over and we dissect it and we just go very we become very critical and over analytical on these things. And what I find, I always say perfectionism is really procrastination in disguise, right? And
mhm,
procrastination is really a lack of something. And in most cases, from what I have found from my own experience and from just what I've gathered from numerous discussions and obviously things I've read and learned on the topic, is that there's a lack of confidence in a lot of times. There are a lot of places there's a lack of confidence, and a lack of confidence leads to I'm going to put this thing off until I know more, until I have the right path, until I have the right tools, I have the right resources, I have the right connections, I've built the audience, I have the exact message that is like exactly what I want it to be. My copy is right, my verbiage is where it needs. So we seek to get so perfect and so where we need to be in our minds, and we're really just procrastinating because we're lacking that thing to just pull the trigger. And speaking of zones, there's another fourth zone that we talk about, and that's called the delusional zone, right? And the delusional zone, a lot of people like to live there, and the delusional zone is these high level ideas of what we're going to do, what we're planning on working on that never comes to fruition because we're
mm,
constantly planning. We're thinking. We're learning all these things, but we're never pulling the trigger. We're never actually doing the thing. We're just talking about it. We are this whole fake it to make it, pretending that we're gonna do something. And oh, you know how busy I am. I'm so busy. I'm constantly planning and preparing, and but we're never executing. So that is called delusional because at some point, if you're not doing the thing, then why are you saying that that's your thing if you're not actually doing the thing? So it just, the biggest thing that I could say as a recipe for removing procrastination is just executing. It's amazing how when you just actually take action on something, it fixes the lack of confidence because you make enough mistakes and you course correct and you learn and you grow and you get better and better and you start improving. And when you improve, your skill sets go up. And when your skill sets go up, your confidence improves. And when your confidence improves, guess what? You tend to take more action and you tend to procrastinate less. Now, there's obviously a lot more to it, but that's kind of like my a quick assessment on the subject of defeat and delay. And we must defeat it because it will literally kill us in every aspect of our life if we're not careful.
Yeah.
ooh.
It's I'll start on Monday, by the way. On Monday. Today's
I am
Friday.
gonna start. I am gonna start Monday, Sifu. I am gonna start Monday.
Wait, let's see what he's talking about. Take a look. Take a look. You followed the rules, tried the restrictions, counted the carbs, the steps, and the failures. You're not lazy. You're exhausted from doing it all without real change. What if the problem isn't you, but the plan? Sifu's Mind Body Method is a 90-day transformation built on 7 unshakable pillars: mindset, movement, nutrition, hydration, fasting, journaling, and faith. This isn't another shortcut. It's your structure, your strength, your reset. You don't need harder, you need better. Ready to begin? Start today. So the reason I said a lot of people put things off, either for Monday, I'll do it next week, I'll do it next month, I'm not ready yet. I have so many people who say to me, Sifu, before I start your program, I gotta get in shape. I'm like, hello, before you start my program, you gotta get in shape. Well, my program is gonna put you in shape. So why do you have to go and do something different to really do what you need to? If you want to start public speaking, start speaking. If you want to get on a stage, don't wait for the right stage. Like Jose said, you need to just do it sometimes. And listen, you can't fly a helicopter if you've never flown one, but how about take a lesson? How about go with somebody? Like skydiving? Nobody skydives alone the first time. It's tandem skydiving, right? Because can you imagine how many people will be flopping down who tried it for the first time, right? You need, sometimes you need expert guidance, and we forget that. And so we think we have to do it alone. We don't. We don't. And Jose said he's starting Monday. He actually is starting Monday. But when we think about, because that's called planning, right? There's nothing wrong with planning appropriately. But when we say we're going to do something just because we keep putting it off, then that's the wrong attitude, I believe. Thoughts, gentlemen?
I'd like to go back to what Jose said, actually, and it ties perfectly into language and how language affects things. And this is it's actually such a good thing. I like that delusional zone, because we say we're going to do something. Now, what's really interesting about that is when you say I'm going to, inside your head, you're already taking an action, which actually puts us back a little bit. So, and this goes to like meanings of words and different things. I actually worked with a very good word coach, Laura Berkey, and you know, instead of saying going to, you say I will, or I am, I am doing this, not I'm going to. I'm going to cook dinner feels very different in your body, and you have less of an inclination to do it. You're saying I'm making dinner now. It's interesting.
Mm. I'm stuck on the skydiving by yourself. It just sounds terrifying, honestly. Um, Honestly, I think a lot about Chris. I appreciate your thoughts, and I think a lot about reality is the ultimate referee, and with any plan, any action, there's really no straight path there, right? You got to realize that at every step, you might go. It's like improv in a way. You might have to move left or right real quick, but you have to adapt to the situation and um, give yourself grace along the way, right? That's really a key for an important factor that you're not gonna get it right the first time. You're not gonna be perfect at, playing an instrument or going back to the bowling reference. I'm stuck on bowling, but you gotta practice. You gotta find the people that, might be 2 steps ahead of you or might be 30 and not look at them as competition, but as teachers and folks that can help you expand your knowledge and collaborate. I think there's a lot of beauty and that synergetic mentoring where in the sense it's not you're just learning from the person that's 30 steps ahead of you. They could be learning from you because they were in your shoes at one point, and give yourself grace because at some point you might be the person 30 steps ahead of someone else and you can get back. So, you know, just start, but don't start skydiving by yourself. That sounds again terrifying.
It's very interesting. When I see paratroopers, I'm like, oh, that would be so much fun. And other people will be going, oh my God, I would never do that. But I'm an adventure guy. I love adventure. I love climbing. I love doing things like that. So jumping out of a helicopter, yeah, I would do it in a minute, in a heartbeat. But other people would be like, well, you got to get me in the helicopter, right? And so there's all these different fears that we allow us to stop from doing something that can be great. And one of the things that you talked about, Mathias, is that you talked about sometimes you have to help other people. And you can learn from somebody who's 2 steps ahead of you or somebody who's 30 steps ahead of you. I don't even mind learning from somebody who's 40 steps behind me, because they will have a different perspective than I will, because I will never say I've arrived.
Mhm.
Well, I'm
Mhm.
right. So, and I know that Jose says this as well, because when you arrive, that's it. You're done. You might as well get buried, right? That's the end of it. So for me, I teach little kids, right? I teach adults. The oldest person I've ever taught was 102. The youngest person I've ever taught was just the other day. I think they were like 2. But for me, it's always about how can I learn from them? They may be looking
Mhm.
to learn from me, but even in me teaching, I learn from it. So it's always, how do I adapt? How do I get something from, even when I'm giving something? I'm the biggest receiver. I don't just give to give, I give to receive, because that interaction is what allows us to be gratified, if you will.
I got to jump in here, Sifu. Great points you just made, and it kind of stirred some thoughts in my mind about the importance of knowing that we can learn from anyone, right? It's not just trying to learn from somebody who's, ahead of you, whether it's 1 step or 100 steps. The biggest mistake that somebody can make, one of the biggest mistakes, is believing that you can't learn from everyone, right? We can learn from everyone. As a matter of fact, here on the beach trip that I'm at right now with my family, I learned from my 6-year-old daughter. She said to me, I don't know what we were doing. We were by the pool, and I was on my phone. And she said, "Daddy, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just taking care of something real quick for work." And she said, "Remember what you told me at the house?" I was like, "What's that?" She said, "You told me a lot of times when you're working at home that wait till we go to the beach because you're not going to work at the beach, and you're working."
Mhm.
And "Oh," "Oh, you're right." I said, "I did say that, didn't I?" She said, "You did say that." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, you're right." So I put my phone away, right? And I plugged back into that moment, and it's very easy to slip up and to say one thing and do something else, or just not be self-aware sometimes. And again, we can learn from everyone. So I am a sponge, and I always say I'm a white belt at all times, right? Because we're lifelong learners. We have to be lifelong learners, and a lifelong learner is not going to say, "Oh, well, I'm not going to spend time with so and so because they're behind me or they're not on the same level as me." No, like, we have to pour into each other, and it's that level of humility that will allow you to receive from someone that you think may be behind you in some capacity, but they're ahead of you in other capacities, right?
Right.
Because success is not
Yeah.
just money. Success is not just health. Success is not just having a strong foundational spiritual life. Success is not just, you know, um, being a good parent or a good spouse. Success is not just having a retirement account that's healthy. Like, there's so many aspects to success. And obviously, holistically, there's that perspective, but it's just, I might be, for example, family wise, I might be ahead of somebody if I have a happy marriage and I have 6 kids, but then I'm talking to them and they're telling me, "Hey, you know what? My health is in the best shape of my life." And, they have a 6 pack and they're eating healthy and they have a lifestyle that I don't have. Right. Or I can flip it, and I can talk to somebody who might be, spiritually in a really phenomenal place and financially not. Right. And the list goes on. So the key is just to always be looking for where can I receive and where can I serve, because it's
Mm.
not about one or the other. It's about having both oars in your life at all times. And if you have that attitude of like, I'm here to serve and I'm also here to receive, then it's amazing how fruitful life can be. And it doesn't matter who you're talking to or who you're with.
That's right. That's right.
Can I chime in too? Jose, like plus one to everything you're saying, and it made me think about that realm of the accountability too. Who's holding you accountable, and how are you holding yourself accountable is really important, because otherwise you're going to be leaning into that delusional zone, or you're going to be giving up as soon as you hit that discomfort, right?
Mm.
It's getting back up and trying it again, and knowing you're not going to get perfect, but also making sure you have a system around you that holds you accountable and gets you back up.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So your daughter called you out, Jose. I got to
This is
tell you,
normal.
she right there's a leader, right? Because a lot of kids would say, "Oh, I can't say that to my dad," because they don't have that connection with their parents. But you have that connection with your daughter that she can tell you anything, and I think that just goes to show the kind of leader that you are, because your daughter can say anything to you and you're not going to get mad at her because she's actually telling you the truth. But when you said also, listen, I'm away, and I love what you posted when you were going to go away. You put I am right? What did that mean, Jose? Share it with us. I love
Out
that.
of orbit, out of orbit. I am off the grid. I am a sayonara, I'll see you in a week kind of environment. Yeah, not
Yeah.
fully, because we're here right now, but you know, for the most part.
No, yeah, but it's letting people know that you're still there, but you needed to make the space for your family, and that's
Yeah.
leadership, right? And
Yeah. Speaking of what you said about the kids and my daughter, is like I teach my kids that you got to speak up, right? You have to communicate effectively. You got to teach people how to treat you. You know, and if you don't tell people how to treat you with words, and sometimes actions, then they're just gonna people can steamroll you if you're not careful, right? So it's important to communicate effectively. There's so many challenges and issues and fallouts in business and in life where people, I don't like this person anymore, or that person did me wrong, or this person screwed me, or this, or whatever. Like a lot of those issues can be solved by simply having a conversation. And the problem is so many people don't want to have the conversations because A, they're uncomfortable, they're difficult, right? But B, it's because we are not used to having conversation, communicating. We're just not used to it. We would rather send an email, and sometimes a nasty one, right? Or we'd rather, send a text, or we'd rather just whatever, but we don't want to have this conversation because it's uncomfortable. But uncomfortable conversations can lead to some wonderful places, right? So there's so many relationships that if I didn't have a conversation and I just let it be what it was, I would probably have more enemies today, right? But the reality is that I think any conversation that's uncomfortable requires a conversation. It just requires us to say, hey, you know what? I'm seeking to understand, not why did you do this, or you like pointing fingers. It's like, hey, you know what, Sifu, I'm just seeking to understand. This is kind of where we're at. This is what I'm feeling. And I felt a certain kind of way about A, B, and C. Can you kind of elaborate a bit? And kind of, I'm seeking to understand where we are and what needs to happen, right? And if both parties come to the table in that way on anything, literally anything, it's amazing how we can salvage relationships. We could continue to love each other. The world would be a better place. It doesn't mean people have to continue to hang out as buddies. It doesn't mean we got to break bread together. It doesn't mean we got to stay in each other's worlds on a business level. That's like, sometimes it doesn't mean that, but it means we're cordial, we're respectful, we still care about each other, and we can still have honor to each other. And I think that's important. And that's a conversation on any level. And too many people these days are not willing to have those conversations. They're just looking to quickly send you some kind of something that's not fun. And it shouldn't be that way.
no, not at all. I think that comes back to the procrastination part, because people are afraid of what the outcome of that conversation may be. Um, Somebody that I've coached in the past, one of the things that they do, um, when they know they have to have an uncomfortable conversation, they practice. They practice what the possibilities of the other person would be. And then they still have the conversation, but they practice it like, if I say this, they'll say this, that. If I say this, that. So they go through different scenarios. They play them in their head. Sometimes they even talk out loud. One time I caught them doing it and I said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, I'm having a forward conversation." I said, "Forward conversation?" I said, "Tell me about that." They said, "Well, I'm imagining what they're saying, but I'm verbalizing the words to see how they land for me." I said, "I love that. That's brilliant." Because now when they do have that conversation with the person, if they said something similar to what they were thinking, they've already heard it. So it's not an attack on them. And all of a sudden they're better for it. So I thought that was a brilliant way of thinking of forward conversations. Have you ever had one? Since then, I've had many. Just a thought.
I love how you
Yeah,
share it, Sifu, because I thought of forward conversation as trying to create the scenarios, and it's like, oh, no, no, no. I think mostly encourage people to just have the conversation, and if you can't have it, find a third party, someone that can mediate, right? If you, that's always an option too, and a close friend, individual that can be unbiased and help. But I do agree with both Jose and Sifu. You're sharing. A lot of folks are avoidant in that way, and I mean, conflict resolution. That's one of the 5 ways you could do it, but you can also lead into collaboration, and that's really where a lot of wonders happen. Chris, I'll pass it over to you. I think I cut you off.
no, that's all right. I love what you said. One of the things I've noticed in communications and where they break down is when we approach a conversation one way, and we're expecting that there's basically three reasons why somebody connects to somebody, right? You need to be heard, you need to be helped, or you need to be held. And
Mm,
most of our disagreements come from I'm going to be heard and you're coming at me like I want to be helped, or I'm going at you like you want to be helped, but you just want to be heard. And it's interesting that this goes for any relationship, coaching or mentoring, or even just daughter son. So one thing I ask myself every time if I'm putting a conversation off is, okay, what am I looking to get out of that? Like, am I doing it because I want to be heard? Am I doing it because I want to be helped? Am I doing it because I want to be held? And then I have to, if there seems to be some discord, I have to check in with the other person and say, okay, are you looking to be heard, helped, or held in this situation? And at the very least, it'll get them thinking like, oh, what the hell are you on about? And then it sort of diffuses it.
I think that we're really talking about role playing, right? Think about actors, right? Before they even go on screen, or if they're on a Broadway show, they rehearse their lines over and
mm,
over and over again. And I was reading a book recently that somebody wrote about Steve Jobs, and if you think about it, a lot of people would never be okay if you are watching a movie or a show and the actors are reading a script. They're like, oh, and wait, yes, okay, so this is my response back to you. That would not be so good. But even though they have a script that's not exact word for word, they might inject their own little nuances. And this is why so many method actors are amazing actors. This is why they get paid the top money, is because they take the script and they internalize it. And so that's what happens with that forward conversation that we're talking about. It's basically a script that we may be running in our head, or like Matthias, you said, do that with somebody. And that's what the greatest sales people do, is they practice role playing with a potential client who may be their spouse, and may be their partner, and may be an employee, and they rehearse. And I've done that thousands of times with my employees, just to make sure they understand how it is when they look at me and they go, why does that come so easy to you? And I'm
mm,
like, what are you talking about? Easy. I said, well, because I've internalized it. The problem that you're having is you have not. So let's role play so that it becomes part of you. And yes, you are going to read a script for a little while, but then I want you to get rid of that script. I want it to become yours, because nobody wants to hear a salesperson reading off a script, because then they don't care about you, right? And the best salespeople are what? They're more into you, not the product.
I completely agree with you, Sifu. I think it's just a matter of being genuine all the time, right? And there's a lot of lack of genuine in today's world. I think a lot of people are trying to come across a certain way, and if you're trying to come across a certain way, then you come across like you're trying to come across that way. That's
Yeah.
just what it is, right? So I think if we're transparent, I think if we are just genuine about who we are, what we're about, and how we serve, then the chips are going to fall where they fall, right? And you're going to be able to serve people. Now, there's no such thing as a perfect person or a perfect business or a perfect model or a perfect anything. At the end of the day, I found myself, because as I've been analyzing, my business as it's scaled and grown over the last 3.5 years, I realized I'm like, man, I've had in the last 3.5 years, I've had more difficult conversations than I've had in the last 15 years prior. And it's not a lot. It's not like a ton, but it's more. And I'm just like, oh, this is interesting, and it's directly linked to the amount of impact and growth that you're creating, right? Because if you're not getting, if you're not having uncomfortable conversations, then that could be an indirect red flag of like, am I actually doing enough? Am I actually serving enough people? Am I actually creating enough impact? Because at some point in time, you're not going to be able to please everybody. You're not going to be able to make everybody happy. You're not going to be able to do whatever, no matter how good you are, right? So the key is constant improvement, right? So every time I have a difficult conversation, I always ask myself, how did I get here? And what do I need to learn from this? And how do I come back stronger? Right. But the key is to have the conversations. And that's so, so important on every level. And I think we can all be better in these areas on across the board, whether it's personal or professional, because this applies in a personal life too, not just business, right?
Well, no
And
doubt.
allow me to chime in here if you don't mind, Jose, because with the rise of I think that genuinity is less and less, right? We're all aiming to be that perfect sales pitch, that perfect, speaker, or that post on all of our social medias, LinkedIn, for example. You see a lot of it, and it's like, man, it's okay because you have that power. We need to retrain ourselves, retrain our folks around us that we have that power within us to be genuine, to be our authentic self. And it's okay to make mistakes. No one's really reading if you got the perfect punctuation or the punchline. They really want to see the human in front of you. And with AI, we're just seeing less and less of that. And I'm wondering if it's also making people have less and less authentic conversations, right? Because it's easy now to, respond to an email and have AI write it for you and be like, okay, cool, send. But you just missed the whole human in front of you. You didn't send any warmth, anything with this. Just AI wrote this for us, and I'm hoping that we can be more genuine and more authentic when we're talking to each other, communicating, because that's key. And feel like AI might be moving us away from that. Not just steer us into the AI conversation, but really what plus one to you're saying, Jose, and I was thinking about that.
I agree with you 1,000%. I think the AI is here to stay, right? It's how we adapt to it. I love the fact that AI is helping in medicine, right? I love that
Mm-hmm.
aspect. I love that it's helping with engineering, but it is taking some people's brainwaves away, right? Because they're not processing, they're not thinking things through. But when we think of AI and we can say it's going to make our world better in different areas, yes. But when it's not making us better because we're no longer having the thought process anymore, we're allowing somebody else to do it for us. It's almost like saying, hey, you know what? I'm so busy. I have the best VAs in the world. And then if they all go away, what are you capable of? Nothing, right? If AI went away and it was only there for engineering, what would all these people who are writing books with AI do? What all these people, yes, people are writing books with AI, right? What are people going to be able to do? All of a sudden, they have to write their own text messages, write their own verbiage in everywhere. It's going to make them start to understand that, hey, you know what? I am worthy. So let me still use the skills I have and let AI do certain things that maybe I don't need to do.
When it comes to AI, Sifu, I completely agree with what you just said. I don't think AI is a bad thing per se, but I do think it can dehumanize us and it can take away the personal touch in terms of our business. So I think AI shouldn't be a replacement of you and your business. It should just be a tool that you can leverage on some levels that will maybe allow you to create more productivity and to create more value and to serve your clients in a better way. But I don't think it should replace the personal touch aspect of what you bring to the table in your business. I think that should always stay there. So there's always that personal touch. There's the authenticity. There's a genuine component of your heart, right? And people can feel you, right? And I think it's important for people to feel connected to you as a person, not on a business, a client to business, but person to person. I need to connect with Sifu. I need to feel your heart. I need to know that you care about me. I need to feel that you are taking the time for me, right? If I don't feel that and I feel I'm just getting this high level verbiage and high level messages and automation through AI, it takes away that component of personal touch. And again, I'm not against AI. I just think it should be leveraged in a way that doesn't remove you and the personal touch and the love that you bring to the table.
Absolutely. 1,000%. And Matthias also said it's a tool, right? Like all things, we need tools, right? If I want to fix my car, I'm going to use tools. If I want to build a cabinet, I need tools. If I want to communicate, I need to have the right tools. If I'm going to be a speaker, either I need a microphone and I need the sound system, because the microphone alone is not going to do anything. If I'm in a room of 10,000 people, people in the back are not going to hear me. The microphone is not going to do it. It's the connection the microphone has to the speaker system. So it is tools that we learn to use, and we need to learn to use them properly. See, Chris, earlier you said we can talk about everything, and guess what, my friend? We basically have, right? We went from AI to all kinds of fun things. Before we go, we have about 2 minutes left. I'd love to give everybody a chance to talk about their business for a minute, and then how anybody can connect with you. So why don't we go ahead and go with you, Chris, and then I'll put your link going across.
Yeah, certainly. So I am a procrastination coach. Some people tend to think I help them do that better, which I actually can too. I can do that too, but I don't recommend it as a long-term solution. I help entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, get out of that burnout, overwhelm, stress, addictions, distractions. That's really what encompasses procrastination. The really the best way to connect with me is actually my LinkedIn. Reach out if you have questions. I love confrontation, so by all means, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me how I'm wrong. You know, um, I agree with Jose. Those uncomfortable conversations are what make us grow, and that's my biggest worry with AI is that people aren't asking other people for opinions anymore. They're going to AI because they're getting a digital yes man, and they'll get off the soapbox because I'll go all day.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like watching a family at a dinner table and everybody's on their cell phone. They're no longer communicating. So can you imagine they're AIing each other? Just to throw that out there for you guys. Matthias, it's up to you, buddy. Go for it.
That'll be really fun to watch Sifu. My realm is on the social change, and my business is my initial, so I'm mostly consulting. It does stands for my three core values, which are mobilize, listen, and connect. my work really focuses on, community engagement, community development, and how do we bring people to the table to have these tough conversations. We don't need to agree with each other, but really engage and learn and grow together, and especially those underheard voices. So uh, that's really where I lean in my work. Been doing it for a number of years. Love meeting people. I like to say I don't sell a product, I sell a service, and that service is to amplify voices. So yeah, I love to connect with folks. LinkedIn is really my main source right now, and I think my website got shared. Ah, there it is at the bottom. So yeah.
Awesome. Jose, and people are going to want to know more about Connected Leaders Academy, my friend.
So yeah, great show today. Thank you, Chris and Matthias, for being here today. You guys are awesome. Really enjoyed all the insights. I'm always learning. This is just good stuff. I enjoy being a co-host with you, Sifu. Thank you for that. In terms of getting a hold of me, well, you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me on Instagram. Those are my socials that I'm on. I have nothing else worthwhile in terms of social outside of those 3 platforms. I live on Facebook primarily. 98% of what I do is on Facebook, so find me there, Jose Escobar. And in terms of Connected Leaders Academy, if you have a business, you're an entrepreneur, and you're interested in getting on more podcasts, more stages, or speaking engagements, if you have a podcast and you want to find awesome guests, you want to build your network, your circle, referrals, connections, leads, more clients, more money, I mean, you name it, then Connected Leaders Academy may be for you. Of course, we have to have a conversation because I vet every single person myself. There is no link you can throw a credit card at to sign up. But if you're interested in learning about it to see if it's a good fit and you have a business, let's connect. www.connectedleadersacademy.com. We can hop on a virtual coffee and explore. So that's that. Thank you so much. Happy Friday. Have a phenomenal weekend. Back to you, Sifu.
All right, great. And I am Sifu Rafael. And by the way, don't go away at the end, Jose, because I want to introduce you to this incredible guy who's on the show with us today. So at the end, we'll just have a little chat. If you're interested in resetting anything about your life, Sifu's Mind Body Method is a way that we do it. Jose is part of it. I'd love to have you in it as well. It's creating the 7 pillars that will help you in your life, whether it's mindset, movement, nutrition, hydration, fasting, journaling, and the most important one, spirituality. Then let's have a conversation and let's get you involved. I also have a free community on there. If you look up Sifu's Mind Body Method on Facebook, you will find us there. Everybody, what a blessing to know you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here on the show. Everybody, do me a favor, share this show. What a great show it was. Share it, and then share it some more. All right, everybody, have a blessed day. Talk soon.